that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. I gotta get this on camera. No. Hey everybody, welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino, and I'm very excited to have my guest today. He's Blairstown Jason Voorhees. He's actually based there in Blairstown, does a number of events. He's unmasked right now, but usually when you see him, he's in full garb. He's also known as Clint, but for the purposes of this interview, he's going to be Blairstown Jason Voorhees. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I ran across your social media pages and I thought that is so cool. I loved the way you really commit to the character. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th, just one of the things I have up. I love the franchise. I especially love part one. I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite, but that's the one that started it all, with Blairstown, New Jersey being the backdrop, and then with the camp there, which is a Boy Scout camp, right?
Yep.
And
correct.
then, of course, Blairstown Diner. But tell me, how did you first end up becoming like Blairstown Jason? What got you started down that road?
Well, I'll tell you, I was down in Blairstown on a random Friday the 13th event. And to be honest, there wasn't much going on. A couple vendors here and there, an occasional, Jason with maybe a mask on, no outfit or anything. And, a couple vendors here and there. And one of the vendors asked me, because they knew I'm a huge horror fan, asked if I would donate a bunch of my Friday the 13th memorabilia so fans that showed up could see masks, could see busts and things like that. So I did. I donated some stuff. And while I was there, I actually thought to myself, you know what? I have so much junk laying around that I could probably put together a costume on my own. So sure enough, my wife pushed me for my love of the franchise. She said, just go do it one day. And believe it or not, it was that simple. She just gave me the push I needed. And there I was.
Obviously there's a lot of us that have a deep love for the film, and you being able to bring the character to life. Do you remember the first public appearance, and what did that feel like when you were actually dressed up as Jason? I know he doesn't talk, but what was that, and how did that go, and how did that sort of motivate you to continue, doing what you've been doing?
Well, I actually do remember my first appearance, and as I mentioned, I gathered a bunch of things up that I already owned, and I put together a quote unquote Jason outfit. It didn't even have the right mask, by the way. It actually behind me, you could just barely see it. It was an old gray mask that I had hand painted. It was terrible. And I even wore an actual 25-pound chain around my neck, which if you look at the old photos, you probably can't see it real good, but on my old business card, there's a 25-pound chain around my neck. And I sure paid the price for that later after the event. My neck was killing me. But my shirt wasn't right. The pants were very basic cargo pants. And I headed off to my first event. And you know what? It didn't look that great, but it was passable. And I did have the mannerisms down. So the people that were there seemed to really enjoy it. And to be honest, I was actually surprised by the people's reactions and the love that the fans and the people in town gave me, even though my outfit I thought was subpar. So that was my first appearance.
And since then, you have it down. You have the look down. I've seen many of your photos on social media, on your Instagram page and your Facebook page. You are actually, though, you live in Blairstown, New Jersey, where the backdrop of the original film was. It's where they shot those opening scenes, the cemetery that you pass by, the camp, the diner, all that shot there in Blairstown. Have you always lived in Blairstown, or have you been there for a long time?
I've been in Blairstown, in the town of Blairstown for about 20 years now.
Okay.
I've always lived in New Jersey. I'm always a Northern Jersey boy. So I've definitely been around the area, but Blairstown the last 20 years. So
It must even have more of a special meaning to fans to be in that town on a Friday the 13th, or even not a Friday the 13th, and to see you walking around. What has been one of your favorite fan interactions? Has there been any? There probably is a lot of them, but have there been any that have stuck out to you just in the reaction that people give you, or have you scared somebody accidentally? I mean, what do you experience when you're dressed up as Jason?
well, it's a tough one to narrow it down to, maybe one good fan interaction, because I literally I've interacted with tens of thousands of fans. I mean, it's insane how many people have their picture with me. But I'd say a few years back, I was doing an appearance. I forget where it was, to be honest with you. But anyway, this family came up to me, a husband, a wife, and a small little blonde-haired girl. She's probably like 5 or 6. And he wanted a photo so bad of him and his wife and their daughter. And I knew right away there was no way this photo was happening. There was no way. This girl was absolutely terrified of me. And so what happened was the husband or the father got his photo with me, and they went on their merry way. Well, to make a long story short, I ran into that family numerous times throughout the event. And every time I ran into them, I do, little dances, or maybe I'd try to do something funny for the little girl to try to win her over, type of thing. At one of the times, I did this ridiculous little dance for her, and she let this smile go, this little smile. And I said, you know what? I got her. I know I can get her now. So every chance I got, I interacted with this little girl. Well, at the end of the day, when the family was leaving, this little girl ran over to me, jumped up in the air where I had to catch her as Jason, and she yelled, "Take the picture, Dad." And they never got that family photo, but I won their daughter over, and they got a great pic with me holding their daughter, like this up in the air after she was terrified. So I always remember that interaction, because here's someone that was terrified of the character, and by the end of the day wasn't so terrified.
I love that. That is really fun. That's a great story. So your interest in horror, have you always been a horror fan? When did that start? And specifically when it comes to Friday the 13th, where did that love start? Have you always liked the film? When did you get into horror?
Well, when I was a kid, my uncle, who has long since passed, used to buy me one VHS movie, one VCR tape every Christmas. And the first one he ever gave me was Alien. And I remember watching Alien and, just loving being scared as a child. And as I started to get older, I really embraced horror. The next one he gave me was A Nightmare on Elm Street. And so I will admit, my first love as, a small child was Freddy Krueger, and not Jason, because I didn't know Jason. You didn't have access to internet. There was no internet back then. So it just grew from there. And now I am a horror fanatic. I'm a film fanatic first and foremost, but horror is my favorite genre.
And you said your house actually reflects that, right? You said that you have a lot of horror memorabilia or just horror type things in your house.
That is correct. It's almost an unhealthy amount. We have a downstairs level here that's been converted to a video store, even with an adult room with beaded curtains that you walk into. And there's all kinds of animatronics and movie memorabilia, signed merchandise. And if you walk through another door, there's an 80s style arcade with 13 machines, shooting galleries, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we're huge nostalgia people. We love horror. We love, things like that. And yes, I have a huge media collection which is amazing considering a lot of things are going digital. I have all physical here.
I love that. I love vinyl, so I have a lot of albums, like records.
Sure.
I miss physical media. I mean, digital makes it easy when you're driving in the car. You no longer have to take every CD out, but I
Sure.
love even VHS tapes. I have a few still, DVDs, because it's like reading the liner notes, looking at the art to the cover. I always looked forward to that when you're renting a movie or buying a movie at the time.
Agreed.
So, you take part in a number of different events. Some of them, though, are there at some of the iconic spots in Blairstown that were featured in the film, one of them being the Blairstown Diner. So how does it feel to actually bring that character to such an iconic, place that so many fans connect with and recognize from the film?
Well, I mean, it's always great to appear in a location like that. Now, I've known Mike, who you spoke with already, and Gary for years over there, and I love that they're really starting to embrace the legacy of that cool location. As long as they'll have me, I'll appear whenever I'm available. But yeah, it's a wonderful spot, and the whole surrounding area is great because for people that haven't been there, maybe I don't know if you've ever been to that particular spot, but you have the diner, and then a few 100 feet away are the arches that Robbie Morgan as Annie walked up the street through those arches. So people think it's far away, but it's really not. It's right across 2 streets, and you can see another iconic location. So, and then a 5-minute drive away from there is the graveyard from the film. So it's great. It's like the diner is the hub. You go to the diner, you have a good meal, you see a bunch of vendors, take some pictures, and then you can branch out into all the other different filming locations. So yeah, it's a great place to show my face at, or my mask, I should say.
And you said before we started the interview, you were saying you don't live far from the cemetery, right? That was featured in the film.
I'm actually on the road that cemetery is at. So, and it still has the same wrought iron arch that's there from the film is still there. There's a lot more graves now, which is always interesting. If you look at the old film and come and take pictures, you can see how many more people were dying to get in there. But yeah, I'm literally a couple miles, I don't know, maybe 3 miles up the road from that location. I pass it every time I leave my house. I pass that graveyard.
Wow. You mentioned in a message that we were exchanging messages for the interview that you do a lot of different events. One of them was a graduation. Tell me about the different types of events that people ask you to attend, because, obviously people think about the scary time of year, Halloween or Friday the 13th, but graduations and parties, I'm sure you get requests to do those often.
I do. It's unusual whenever you get a request that is outside the norm. You wouldn't expect someone to call you. Like just this weekend, I did a graduation party. It was a surprise for their horror fan son that I showed up. And but you wouldn't expect an event like that. But I do get it. I've done birthday parties, pet adoptions, the graduation parties, 5K runs, Run from Jason, which I even have the bracelet on that says Run from Jason 5K run. Trunk or treats, horror cons. I mean, there's just too many to list, but I will tell you, if you don't mind, my favorite event my favorite recent event that I did, I was hired to do a birthday party, and they told me that they would take me by boat to where I was going to appear. So a little sketchy. Remember, I don't know any of these people.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So I brought my wife with me, for backup in case she had to call for help. And, but we got there, and they were wonderful, but they put me on this boat, and they brought me across this lake to an island in the middle of this lake, a wooded island. And it turned out they were going to have their daughter, who's a horror fanatic. I think it was 20 something year old daughter, was having her birthday party on this island. So all the boats pulled around the island, and I was in the woods. So when her party was going on, I came out of the woods and surprised her and scared everybody. And, we had a wonderful time on this island. And, it was just a great event. But I thought, what better way to show the Jason character than actually being on a lake and coming out of the woods. And believe it or not, my business card, that's the lake that I was at.
Oh,
So that's the day. And if you flip it around, there's the backside, but it's that lake because I loved the environment so much.
those are great pictures. I saw those on your social media channel. I was wondering where that was.
Yep,
That's amazing.
yeah, it was a great event. And you know what started off as me being a little like, I don't know how this is going to be. It turned into a wonderful day. We met some great people, and there's still fans today who now, because of that event, come to the diner. They look for me when I'm at events, and I do see them from time to time, which is really nice. So it was cool.
Have you been to the camp, the actual camp? I know they do like tours of the camp, and I've never, like I said, I've never been to any of those locations there in Blairstown. I want to go. I will go. I plan to. But have you been to the camp yet?
I have. I did they called it then. That was probably the photos behind me. I can't read the date, but it was probably 5 years ago. They called it the 13-hour tour. I did the 13-hour tour. So basically it was all day there with the filming locations. And then we watched the film at the camp with the cast. The only person who didn't show up was Kevin Bacon, of course. But everybody else was there. Everybody, Adrian King, Ari Lehman, they were all there. So it was a wonderful event. Tom Savini was even there that day. And Harry Manfredini, they were all there. So it was a really neat event, but I cannot recommend enough for any fan to take that tour. You can do the regular one, you can do the overnight, or you could just go on their website and buy some of their memorabilia, which is amazing too. In the other room here, I have a dock board from one of the original docks with a frame in it, the picture of the lake in it. So wonderful place, great place, good people, and an amazing thing for horror fans.
Were you, obviously you probably met, since they were there, the cast. Is there anybody that you met that you were really looking forward to meeting that was connected to the film, specifically the first one?
There was Adrian King. She, for those who don't know, she's the one that ultimately
Alice
takes out Mrs. Voorhees. Yeah. But right above my head, you can't see it, but there's a picture of me and her in a canoe. And she was just a wonderful, wonderful person. And she won me over when we had some interaction before the photo op. She was off in the woods on her phone. And I was talking to her briefly. And when I came to the canoe later in the day, she goes, "There's my boy, Clint." So it was just wonderful. You have 1,000 people standing there, and she called me out. So that was pretty neat. And I really wanted to meet Robbie Morgan too, the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And her and I spent quite a bit of time together that day when I did it. And just, again, a wonderful person. Everybody from the cast was really pleasant and really nice. And I'll tell you what, they appreciated the fans, which is a lot more than I can say for a lot of actors. Some actors don't appreciate the fans, but they sure did. And they showed it too. Adrian gave me a signed poster in the other room. That's just wonderful. I had it framed and it looks great. But anyway.
How long does it take you to get into the costume? Because I also noticed that you do like the painting, like your skin is the color of Jason. So the full kind of getting made up, how long does that typically take you to do?
Well, what's funny is when I modified the costume to make it what you see today. If you look at social media today, you'll see a totally different Jason than you did 2 years ago. That Jason costume of 2 years ago took me an hour to put on. It was insane. Trying to get all the latex and the hock and everything to line up, and it was an absolute nightmare. I'm not going to lie. I used to paint my whole face out. And but now I just did that event at the graduation party, and I had that outfit on in 10 minutes with full makeup, latex, chains, gloves, 3-foot machete, everything. So yeah, it doesn't take me long now.
Do you have a favorite Jason through the films? I know a few different actors or stunt men have played Jason throughout the films. Various sequels and what have you, but are there any that you're particularly fond of?
You know what? I can't say I have a favorite actor in the films, I mean, most people would say Kane Hodder, as their inspiration. I don't think he's necessarily my favorite Jason. I like them all equally because I like Jason. I do agree that certain characters, walk differently and embody the character differently. But I will admit, I use Kane Hodder's Jason for my body language, my head tilt, my breathing. That's all right from Kane Hodder. My Jason inspiration as far as my costume goes is a part 6 and part 7 hybrid. So, a lot of people will see the ammo belt on me and say, oh, he's part 6 with the yellow gloves. I don't use the spear like the movie. I prefer my machete. But then I also added chains and seaweed and, the different look from part 7 with where I cut through and you can see my flesh and sinew and bone. So I put them two together as a hybrid because I love both films.
Why do you think that this character has endured over the past, although Jason wasn't the killer in part 1, but, going back to 1980 when the film was released, like we're now 46 years since the release of Friday the 13th, and people are still talking about it. There's a series coming out, Crystal Lake, later this year on Peacock. I mean, it has just continued to be a character and a franchise that people are interested in. Why do you think that he's stuck around so long?
Well, at the end of the day, he's imposing, he's uncompromising, he's scary, he's cool, he's awesome, he's a strong silent type, and he's just an all-around badass. What more do you need in an icon? I mean, he'll be around for another 40 years in one form or another. Whether I'd like in 40 years to be able to hit a button and have a hologram of Jason walk through my house with me. But yeah, I just think he's one of those characters that isn't going anywhere. He may fade away for a little while, but then he'll be back. That's for sure.
Out of the various events that you take part in, are there any that you enjoy more than others, or what do you enjoy the most?
Well, you know what? I love all the events I do, and I love all the fans, obviously. But I look forward to the events that actually fall on Friday the 13th the most. And the reason for that is it just seems like Jason is made for those appearances. Everyone in the area knows that I'm going to be lurking around somewhere. And I think that's what makes it fun for me. That's what makes it enjoyable. Yeah, I love doing the events that fall on, April 2nd, on a Thursday. That's fine. But when people see Jason, they just kind of blow it off like, oh, there's Jason. Or, I wonder what he's doing here today. It's not Friday the 13th. So my favorite events are the ones that fall on Friday the 13th. And this year is wonderful because we get 3 of them this year. And we have another one in November. So that's going to be a good one too.
Do you have plans for the November 13th, the Friday the 13th then, or will you be doing, do you know yet what you'll be doing?
Yep, I will definitely be at the diner and the surrounding areas for the 13th of November as well. I'm not sure what Mike has planned right now for that particular day, but it may just be, another vendor fair and signings and things like that, which is what the fans want anyway. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You don't need to have Jason parachute in a plane. People just want their photos and they want some good food, and that's what they provide. So
I was going to ask you, how many selfies do you think you've taken at this point?
Tens of thousands. It's and I'm not exaggerating. It's literally been tens of thousands. There are people that want 15 selfies with you. In different positions and environments and different weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely tens of thousands.
So when you were growing up, I mean, this is sort of a form of acting because you're taking on a character. Have you acted before? Were you interested in the arts in any way? Because a lot of times people who do go into like either cosplay or they're doing a character, there is sort of a love for the arts in some way, whether it was acting or music or something. So what is a little of your background, and does this sort of feed that passion if you do have that for the arts?
Yes, I actually, acted a few times, independent films. I did a show during COVID called Tub Talkers, and that was a lot of fun with guests and things like that. But I think a lot of my the way I act and embrace things like this is being in bands my whole life. I was a front man in numerous bands, and my last band was 15 years of us, and we're all still friends to this day, and it's just a lot of fun. I've always been a front man, so what better way to stay a front man than to be Jason Voorhees?
What do your friends and family think about, you taking on this character? Do they think you're crazy, or do they think it's funny? I mean, what kind of reaction do you get from those that are closest to you?
My wife embraces it. She loves it. She'll usually be by my side at events, certain events, as a camp counselor. And she does the photos and does the talking for me. Because remember, I don't speak. If I talk to you, it's because we've had interactions in the past, or we're working together. Maybe we're doing an event together. Then I may whisper something to you, but that's about it. I never break character, and I think that's another reason people like me. But as far as my family, some of them think I'm a little wacky. But when they see, the other thousands of people that are just as wacky as I am, then maybe I'm not so wacky.
Is there an event that you haven't taken part in yet, or something that you'd like to be part of that's on the bucket list with Jason?
It would be nice to actually participate in an event where the cast is around again. I do meet cast members at horror cons and things like that, but it would be nice to have, I reached out to the camp as well to see if they wanted me to do an event with their when they do the tours and everything, because it'd be kind of cool to have photos with Jason. But to their credit, in the original film, there is no Jason. It's just the boy in the lake. So they like to stay true to that. So they were very nice, and they told me thank you, but no thank you. But that's an event I would love to do. I would love to be there when there's 250 people, diehard fans of the franchise. I'm sure they would love pictures of Jason in the canoe or in a cabin with them. So maybe in time the camp will reach back out and rethink it.
If people are interested in having you at an event, or how can they reach out to you? How can they find you?
The best two platforms are Facebook and Instagram. Now, I will say that Facebook, I give a lot more love to, because I think it's an easier platform. But I am coming up on that 5,000 follower cap. So once that hits that, I'll spill back over in Instagram. I give both love, but Facebook's the best place to reach me on Messenger.